themed Advancing Partnership in Indo-Pacific. Over the past 10 editions, the Delhi Dialogue has emerged as India's premier Track 1.5 platform for policymakers, practitioners, academia, and think tanks to gather and discuss various aspects of India's relations with ASEAN. This year, the ambit of the dialogue has been expanded to cover other issues and countries in the Indo-Pacific region, even as the primary focus continues to be India's relations with ASEAN. For the first plenary session of the Delhi Dialogue 11 on building bridges in Indo-Pacific, I would like to invite on stage the chair for the session, His Excellency Dr. Luong Minh, former Secretary General of ASEAN. I would also welcome on stage the panelists, His Excellency Mr. Robert Matheus Michael Tene, Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for Community and Corporate Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Norng Sakal, Under Secretary of State, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Cambodia, Her Excellency Ms. Emaleen Abdul Rahman Teo, Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Brunei, Darussalam, Her Excellency Ms. Pornpimol, Kanchanalak, Advisor and Special Envoy of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Thailand. His Excellency Sohan, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Myanmar. And His Excellency Mr. Somchith Inthamith, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Industry and Commerce, Lao PDR. We will begin this session with remarks by the chair for the session, followed by the panelists. Over to you, Excellency.
process of As an outlook on Indo-Pacific, what should and can be done to bridge the two most dynamic regions, center of growth in the world, and to bring about peace, security, stability, and prosperity for the people in South Asia and in the wider region of Indo-Pacific. Joining our discussion today at this plenary session, we have very distinguished speakers, panelists from the ASEAN Secretariat, His Excellency Michael Tene, Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for Community and Corporate Affairs, and also from the ASEAN member state, from Brunei Darussalam, Her Excellency Ms. Emaleen, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Cambodia, His Excellency Norng Sakal, and the Secretary of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from Lao PDR, His Excellency Mr. Somchith Inthamith, Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade, from Myanmar, His Excellency Mr. U So-han, Permanent Secretary also at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and from Thailand, Her Excellency Pornpimol, Kanchanalak, Advisor and Special Envoy of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. As we have only perhaps less than 1 hour for our discussion, for our session, I suggest that each of the speakers, panelists, try to complete his or her presentation in 8 minutes, so we may have some time for a discussion. So now in the normal ASEAN order, I would first invite Excellency Michael Tene to present his views.
Thank you, Your Excellency Luong Minh, distinguished panelists, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Secretary General of ASEAN, let me convey our congratulations to the organizer for the convening of this dialogue and also our appreciation for the very warm hospitality accorded to us. We in ASEAN place a high importance on our relations with our external partners, including India. And we work closely with all of them to ensure that the partnerships remain mutually beneficial, dynamic, and adaptive to the evolving regional and global challenges. Platforms for thinking through ASEAN's relations with its partners, such as this daily dialogue, are very useful. Not only do dialogues such as this contribute to the strengthening of our partnerships, they are also useful to explore ways on how to further deepen our relations. We are confident that this year's dialogue would once again, as in the past dialogues, generate ideas on how to further enrich ASEAN-India strategic partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, the ASEAN story is one of regional efforts to promote peace and stability, to enhance our people's economic well-being and work together for regional development and progress. Since its establishment in 1967, ASEAN has matured as a regional organization. But we acknowledge that we still have a long way to go, acknowledging the diversity, different level of economic and social development of the individual members of ASEAN. while at the same time we work towards building an ASEAN community. What should not be doubted is the political will and commitment of ASEAN member states on the importance and relevance of this community building, individually to each member and collectively as a region. Our partners, which have supported us throughout the years, recognize that ASEAN has been instrumental in promoting regional peace and stability in Southeast Asia and the region beyond. We appreciate that we continue to receive requests from a number of countries from different regions to establish a form of links with ASEAN. ASEAN is determined to pursue our community building aspiration. We are clear of our plans as contained in our Community Vision 2025 and its 3 blueprints in political security, economic, and socio-cultural. And next year, we will undertake a midterm review of the 3 community blueprints to ensure that ASEAN community building's efforts remain on track. We have reviewed our ASEAN Connectivity Master Plan, which contains targets to be realized by 2025, as well as our initiative for ASEAN integration, which would help us narrow the development gap within ASEAN. We hope that by 2025, we can achieve a more integrated ASEAN along the political, security, economic, and cultural and socio-cultural domain. Ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN-India relations and cooperation have progressed steadily over the past 2.5 decades. Along a broad spectrum of issues, we have cooperated, including, among others, on security issues, non-traditional issues, cyber issues, economic, education, and cultural. Guided by the current ASEAN-India 5-year roadmap, 2016 to 2020, we hope to pursue our partnership for peace, progress, and prosperity, and to continue this endeavor through the next phase of the roadmap. ASEAN and India are also committed to strengthen our economic links. Less than 5 years ago, our leaders reaffirmed their commitment to promote ASEAN-India trade and investment, with a target to achieving two-way trade volume of $200 billion by 2022. While we are on the path towards achieving this, with the trade between ASEAN and India increasing from 71.25 billion in 2012 to 81.06 billion in 2018, we fully understand that much more needs to be done if we are to accelerate our trade relations and to attain the $200 billion target by 2022. We need to further boost our connectivity in the maritime, land, and air domain. Trade relations and connectivity must be complemented with more people-to-people interactions among our academics, parliamentarians, journalists, youth, and other segments of our community through, among others, educations, exchanges, and tourism. It is also worth noting that our partnership goes beyond bilateral relation between ASEAN and India. India has and continue to be part of the various regional mechanisms centered on ASEAN, including the East Asia Summit, the ASEAN Regional Forum, the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting, the expanded ASEAN Maritime Forum. Therefore, spearheading together with ASEAN member states to develop concrete activities to enhance our collective capacity to address the various challenges and opportunities that we face. As Dr. Luong has said, that our region is one of the most dynamic regions in the world. And the Asia-Pacific and Indian Ocean have continuously experienced geopolitical and geostrategic shift. This shift poses challenges, and we believe that they also present at the same time opportunities. It is therefore in the interest of ASEAN and India to ensure that such dynamics will continue to bring peace, security, stability, and prosperity for our people. It is with such a mindset that ASEAN adopted the ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific at the 31st ASEAN Summit this year. The Outlook is meant to guide ASEAN engagement and cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region, based on the main principles of ASEAN centrality, inclusiveness, complementarities, rule-based order anchored upon international law, and commitment to advancing economic engagement in the region. 4 priority areas of cooperation, namely maritime cooperation, connectivity, the attainment of UN Sustainable Development Goals, as well as economic cooperation have been identified. However, other possible areas of cooperation are not precluded. The outlook is also an ASEAN initiative to positively and constructively engage regional powers, which are all ASEAN's external partners at the same time. The outlook emphasizes ASEAN's advocacy and belief in the importance of engaging all our partners, with ASEAN playing a central role in the evolving regional architecture. The 35th ASEAN Summit in Bangkok last month, our external partners, including India, have affirmed their support to ASEAN outlook and its contribution in promoting strategic trust. We are encouraged by our external partners' readiness to work with ASEAN in promoting the principles as contained in the ASEAN Outlook, and to undertake cooperation with ASEAN to realize a peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific region, a region of cooperation and collaboration instead of rivalry. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's Delhi Dialogue, Advancing Partnership in Indo-Pacific, is this very timely. Partnership is key in promoting the principles contained in the ASEAN Outlook, as well as strengthening cooperation in the 4 key priority areas of cooperation identified in the Outlook. We appreciate India's support for the Outlook as conveyed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the recent 16th ASEAN-India Summit in Bangkok. And we hope to complement India's strategies such as the security and growth for all in the region, to contributing to the realization of the goals set forth in the ASEAN Outlook. And in conclusion, I look forward to productive and discussions throughout this dialogue. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Excellency Mark Tene. I would invite Excellency Emaleen for your presentation.
His Excellency Dr. Long Minh, former Secretary General of ASEAN, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before I begin, I would like to express my appreciation to the Ministry of External Affairs of India for the excellent arrangements and warm hospitality accorded to me. Since the Delhi Dialogue was held, it has brought together many of the region's leading experts and provided frank and useful ideas that have helped to move the ASEAN-India relations forward. It is therefore a pleasure for me to participate in this premier event. This year, we meet to discuss the Indo-Pacific, a geopolitical construct that has gained prominence in recent years, reflecting the strategic importance of the vast expanse of the Indian and Pacific Oceans. In the center of these 2 oceans lies Southeast Asia, with ASEAN as the only regional entity that geographically exists in this dynamic region. This means ASEAN is well positioned to serve as a driving force to forge closer cooperation, especially towards enhanced trade and investment. Against the backdrop of emerging economic and security challenges in the region, it is important that we work towards deeper and more inclusive cooperation to ensure peace, stability, and mutual prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. This is especially pertinent in view of ongoing threats to free and open trade, including rising protectionism and anti-globalization, as well as the socio-economic uncertainties from the advancements in technology. In this regard, a real manifestation of Indo-Pacific economic cooperation would be the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, as it sets in place a rules-based trading system that spans from the Indian to the Pacific Oceans. It would account for almost half of the world's population and over 30% of global GDP if all 16 participants are included, therefore making the RCEP systematically significant for the global trading system, whilst sending a strong message that the region is committed to a rules-based approach to trade and investment rules-based approach to trade and investment liberalization. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, another important aspect in building bridges in the Indo-Pacific is also our people-to-people linkages. Our regions share deep historical trade and cultural ties which have grown and evolved over time. It is therefore important that we promote greater linkages as close friendship and better understanding between our peoples will serve as a strong foundation for our future relations. One way to increase our people-to-people exchanges is by strengthening regional connectivity. In this connection, we are pleased to see that India's Act East policy has set connectivity as a priority, and we welcome India's continued support for the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025. We also encourage continued exchanges between our people across areas such as tourism, sports, youth, and education. For Brunei Darussalam, we greatly value Indian professionals, educators, and doctors which have brought in many skills and services for our development and further strengthen our people-to-people relations. Finally, as we build these bridges of cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, we should build bridges of collaboration with like-minded partners who share our vision of a principled regional order. The success of our cooperation will be underpinned by building mutual trust and maintaining our political commitment based on openness, good governance, respect for sovereignty, and one that complements existing cooperation frameworks. In this regard, allow me to express my appreciation to India for lending its support to the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, as well as its commitment in ASEAN-led processes such as the East Asia Summit and the ASEAN Regional Forum. Overall, cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, similar to that under ASEAN, must focus on bringing benefits to the people, as this would ensure its long-term sustainability and continued support from the people of the region. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Excellency Emaleen Teo, for your presentation. I pass the floor to Excellency Norng Sakal.
Thank you, Excellency Luong Minh, former Secretary General of ASEAN, Honorable distinguished head of delegations, distinguished participants. At the outset, I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to the government of India for making this important daily dialogue relevant possible, and for the kind invitation extended to His Excellency Sakal, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Cambodia. Due to the prior engagement in Phnom Penh, he is unable to attend this important event. I wish to extend also my sincere appreciation to the organizing committee for the warm hospitality extended to me and my delegation. Before I touch on my interventions, allow me to reiterate Cambodia's full support for the continuity of the daily dialogue, which has over the past years contributed significantly to the advancement of ASEAN dialogue relation and to regional peace and prosperity for the people of ASEAN and India. So, Chairman, under this session, I'd like to make my intervention in 3 parts. First, on progress of partnership. Second, on Indo-Pacific construct. And the third one, the way forward. On the progress of partnership between ASEAN and India. India is one of the most active ASEAN dialogue partners. In 2018, ASEAN and India celebrated the 25th anniversary of dialogue relation. The progress of relationship over the past years has been made according to the spirit of shared values, common destiny. We acknowledge that ASEAN and India relation process went through achievements and challenge. However, against the backdrop of global uncertainties, ASEAN and India have been able to navigate those challenges and remain steadfast in promoting regional peace, security and prosperity, and in collectively addressing common challenges. For Cambodia, we attach great importance to the strategic partnership that ASEAN has had with India, and we welcome India's Act East policy, and we believe that it would complement ASEAN community building efforts. We are pleased with the good progress that has been achieved as the result of cooperation across all dimensions. Just a few highlights in political and security front. ASEAN appreciates India for its continued support ASEAN centrality. ASEAN and India have been engaged actively through AF, ADM Plus, and as well as East Asia Summit that has contributed to the maintenance of peace, security, and stability and prosperity in the entire region. On economic front, we have seen robust growth in two-way trades between both sides, which India has stood as the ASEAN's sixth trading partner and sixth largest source of FDI among ASEAN dialogue partners. Cambodia appreciates India for its continued support of regional integration and narrowing development gaps efforts. Over the past several years, in socio-cultural field, ASEAN and India have reinforcing together in people-to-people connectivity, education and tourism sector, among others. This year is the 27th anniversary of dialogue relations, and we need to look ahead for the next decades of partnership. We have noted that the daily declarations adopted by the leaders in 2018 provided strategic commitment for both sides to reinforcing and broadening further the ASEAN-India strategic partnership to a greater height through regional and sub-regional cooperation context. Currently, ASEAN and India are implementing joint cooperative activities under the 2016-2020 ASEAN-India Plan of Action. Next year, both sides will commence developing a new Plan of Action 2021-2025 to chart future cooperation for the next 5 years. On Indo-Pacific construct, it is undeniable that our Indo-Pacific region is not spared by the scores of ethnic and religious strife, transnational and non-traditional security issues, unresolved overlapping territorial claims. However, more worrisome is that the Southeast Asian region is increasingly becoming a strategic theater of external powers competition. We noted that there are several regional architectures for the Indo-Pacific region put forward by a number of countries in the Asia-Pacific and to a lesser extent India. Due to the importance of the Indo-Pacific, where ASEAN is in the center, the ASEAN leaders adopted the ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific, which has already highlighted by previous speaker, and I don't want to take more time to elaborate that outlook. Cambodia believes that all initiatives could complement each other to produce win-win scenario for peace and prosperity to the entire region. The complementarity is a core principle which aims to invest in cooperation instead of rivalry and to bring about economic development and promote peace, security, stability, and prosperity for the people of the Indo-Pacific region. We are of the view that India's vision for the Indo-Pacific region, though not explicitly laid out in the Act East policy, is in many ways complementarity with the ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific. Cambodia is looking forward to work closely with all ASEAN member states and India to see how ASEAN and India's concepts could be complementing each other and addressing common objectives and interests. On the way forward, I'd like to share some of our views as follows. First, we are of the firm view that the rise of protectionism and anti-globalization run counter the multilateral trading system. Against this backdrop, at the Asia-Pacific Summit held on 19 November 2019 in Phnom Penh, our Prime Minister Somchith Techo Hun Sen called for the restoration and establishment of an open and inclusive multilateral system and a rules-based international order. He further emphasized that multilateralism is one of Cambodia's foreign policy objective and interest. In this context, ASEAN and India need to boost efforts to increase the two-way trade and investment volume to reach our target of USD 200 billion by 2022 through the full and effective utilizations of ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. Second, we are pleased to learn that connectivity is one of India's priorities. Toward enhancing and deepening partnership with ASEAN, we encourage India's further contributions to ASEAN connectivity through promoting synergies between Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity, Impact 2025, and connectivity elements in India's Act-East policy and SAGA, Security and Growth for All in the Region vision, under the connectivities approach. In this sense, we look forward to the realizations of extension of trilateral highway to Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam that will mark another concrete deliverable under India's Act-East policy. In addition, people-to-people connectivity must also be continued to strengthen. Third, with India's potential in both technology and human resources, Cambodia encourages India to continue to support ASEAN commitment to achieve regional integration and narrowing development gaps in the region, including the implementations of the II work plan, so that least developing countries in ASEAN, like Cambodia, can seize opportunity and benefits from the growth of digital economy and the adaptations of the fourth industrial revolution. Fourth, ASEAN and India should further pursue closer cooperation in human resource development through exchange of entrepreneurship and IT, as well as exploring exchange programs. For education sector, we highly appreciate India's kind offer of 1,000 PhD fellowship for ASEAN students in the area of technology. My last point, ASEAN and India should continue to engage each other to further promoting peace, security, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. In light of the current development in the international arena, including the fast growing of technology and innovation, it is useful for ASEAN and India to explore the possibility of enhancing further cooperation in the areas such as digital economy, innovation, sustainable development in all dimensions, taking into account the achievements of partnership in the past 27 years, and reinforcing new bridge of cooperation for shared value and common destiny. I thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Excellency Norng Sakal. I'd like now to invite Excellency Somchith Inthamith for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, Dr. Minh, the former Secretary General of ASEAN. Indeed, we enjoy a very fruitful cooperation and a good progressive development in ASEAN during your last tenure. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, allow me to follow my previous speakers in express my sincere appreciation to India for the warm welcome, generous hospitality extended to us, and also the excellent arrangement made for the Delhi Dialogue 11. India is one of the important partners of ASEAN. ASEAN-India dialogue indeed started from 1992 as a sectoral dialogues partner, and also to a full dialogue partnership in 1995. It was also elevated to the strategic partnership in 2012, India has actively contributed to the physical and institutional connectivity, including road projects, people-to-people exchange, and maritime cooperation activity through the ASEAN-led mechanism, as well as India initiative to convene annual dialogue that we have today, which has contributed also to experience sharing of knowledge and expertise in various areas of cooperation. The DD11 with the topic of the enhancing and also the building bridge, they have also a lot to do together in order to enhance our mutually beneficial cooperations, including utilizing opportunities in terms of trade and investment, connectivity, and peoples-to-peoples contact for shared prosperities. The ASEAN outlook in the Indo-Pacific that many speakers already mentioned is also adopted during the 34th ASEAN Summit, intended to enhance ASEAN community building process and strengthen cooperation with external partners through the existing ASEAN-led mechanism. The outlook will serve as an important document in guiding ASEAN cooperations with its external partner in the wider Indo-Pacific. Moreover, the document is also based on the principle of ASEAN centrality, openness, transparency, inclusivity, and also the rule-based framework. Lao PDR stands ready to work with all the ASEAN member states and cooperate with interest partners in implementing the 4 areas of cooperation, like our chair just mentioned, or also outlined in the outlook, through the implementation of the concrete project, including the synergy with the existing international, regional, sub-regional connectivities frameworks and initiatives such as the G20, the Master Plan of ASEAN Connectivity 2025, the Mekong Ganga, the GMS, and others. We appreciate also the ongoing effort to realize the trilateral projects, highways project that my Cambodian fellow just mentioned, India, Myanmar, Thailand, and its extension to Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and also welcome India's proposal for the study by the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia on developing an economic corridor along the trilateral highway and the feasibility of its extension to Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Peoples-to-peoples connectivity is also another area of cooperation to be further enhanced in order to build the trust and understanding between our people in wider regions, which helps create conducive environment for the maintenance of peace and development cooperation in the world. Over the past, ASEAN and India have enjoyed robust peoples-to-peoples ties, underpinned by strong cultural and historical links between both sides. In the education areas, we appreciate India's support through the ASEAN-India student exchange programs, scholarships program for students from the CLMV, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam countries at Nalanda University, and also the special course for ASEAN diplomats, among others. We also welcome the successful convening of the second ASEAN-India Youth Summit this year in Guwahati, India. With regard to ICT, advancement of technology and innovations, IR 4.0 are India's comparative advantage. I am of the view that Indian support in this area will enable ASEAN well on embracing challenge caused by the technological disruption and seizing well the opportunity to digitalize our micro and SMEs to do the e-commerce and access to both regional and the international market. We welcome the launch of ASEAN-India Tourism Cooperation Year 2019 in Ha Long Bay City, Vietnam. We look forward to the successful implementation of activity on this ASEAN-India Tourism Cooperation years. I believe that ASEAN and India should work together to promote the quality of sustainable tourism, including ecotourism, through concrete cooperation projects with a view to boost both ways tourism visit and promote greater peoples-to-people exchange. As the landlocked and also least developing country, we look forward to India's growing support in the area of education, cultural, and peoples-to-peoples linkages as we continue to advance ASEAN-India strategic toward the shared prosperity. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency Somchith Inthamith. Pass floor to Excellency U Sonhan.
Thank you. His Excellency Mr. Minh, former Secretary General of ASEAN, and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wish to join my colleagues speaking before me in expressing our special thanks to the Government of India for extending invitation to Myanmar delegation and excellent arrangements made for the 11th edition of the Daily Dialogue. It is a great honor and privilege for me to join in today's plenary session under the theme Building Bridges in Indo-Pacific. I wish to share our perspective on Indo-Pacific concept and the cooperation between ASEAN and India under this framework. The Indo-Pacific, widely perceived as a closely integrated and interconnected region between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, encompassing the world's most crucial sea lanes, has increasingly become central to all of us. Over the past decades, the region has become the center of growth, elevating the living standards of millions of people. Along with economic growth, the region also sees growing competition, mistrust, and miscalculation among major powers in the region. In this respect, it is imperative for leading regional players like ASEAN and India to ensure the Indo-Pacific as a region of peace, stability, and cooperation. Along with the efforts for greater physical connectivity, ASEAN and India can help in building bridges over the gaps, in reducing trust deficit among certain regional players through fostering respect for rules-based order, individual states' sovereignty, and territorial integrity. As ASEAN finds itself at the center of Indo-Pacific region, serving as a conduit for the flow of commerce, capital, and peoples of the region, we attach great importance to ensure peace, security, stability, and prosperity of the peoples in Southeast Asia, as well as in the wider Asia-Pacific and Indian Ocean regions. ASEAN leaders' adoption of ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific early this year aims to project ASEAN as a constructive and positive force for greater transparency, inclusivity, peace, and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. As a global center of gravity is shifting to the Indo-Pacific region, where ASEAN and India have a huge stake, I wish to highlight 3 areas where we can further strengthen our collaboration. First, ASEAN and India can collectively promote a rules-based approach to governance in the region. Such measures would be made possible as the ASEAN and India share common vision in Indo-Pacific. I am pleased to note that ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific has been well received by India, as it concurs with India's Act East policy and its vision in Indo-Pacific as reflected in the Sakal, security and growth for all in the region. Let me turn to the second point that relates to strengthening collaboration in addressing transnational and non-traditional security challenges, particularly in dealing with the challenge of cyber crimes. Along with the expansion of the digital space, digital economy, and digital connectivity, cybersecurity has become an important public policy issue for both ASEAN and India. As there is a lack in the governance of cyberspace globally and nationally, India and ASEAN need to advance together to create value-based regional cooperation in cyberspace. In this respect, I wish to commend India for hosting India-ASEAN Track 1.5 Dialogue on Cyber Issues on 14 October 2019, providing opportunities to take stock of cyber insecurity in the region and finding ways for meaningful policy response to tackle new digital realities. I'm also encouraged by the ongoing support of India in establishing IT training centers in Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. And I believe these facilities would help strengthen our people's ability to avoid risks on cyberspace. Excellencies, distinguished guests, the third area where ASEAN and India can work together more closely is to enhance greater physical, commercial, people-to-people connectivity. I wish to recognize the progress of several infrastructure projects linking ASEAN and India, including the trilateral highway connecting India's northeast to Thailand, the Dawei Deep Seaport, and the Kaladan Multimodal Transport Project in Myanmar. Being a land bridge between Southeast Asia and South Asia, Myanmar is ready to contribute to India's efforts to expand its relations with other ASEAN member states. In fact, trade, tourism, and people-to-people exchange are also important bridges to close the development gap among the countries in the region. As we mark 2019 as the ASEAN-India Tourism Cooperation Year, we expect an increase in two-way tourist visits. Both sides need to capitalize historical and cultural affinities to promote people-to-people exchanges through research, education, youth exchange, media exchange, and cultural activities in the future. Excellencies, distinguished guests, before I conclude, I wish to add one more point relating to my country's application to the Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA, for the second time this year. We truly appreciate the support rendered by India and ASEAN member states for our candidacy to fill the missing link in the rim of Indian Ocean. Myanmar has successfully reduced poverty rate by half from 48.2% in 2005 to 24.8% in 2017. Myanmar is becoming one of the region's fastest growing economies, with an annual growth rate of 6.5% in 2018. Resource-rich Myanmar has strong potential to fulfill the IORA objectives of promoting sustainable growth and balanced development of the region. Upholding the principles of multilateralism and mutually beneficial cooperation are Myanmar's strong motives to seek the IORA membership. And therefore, we like to seek continued support from our friends, which I believe will help overcome politically driven opposition from some members of the association. I would like to reiterate our firm commitment to moving ASEAN forward and intensifying ASEAN-India cooperation in all dimensions as we are marching towards a common vision of peace and prosperous future. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Excellency Yu Sohan. I pass the floor to our last speaker, Excellency Pornpimol Kanchanalak. Thank you.
Thank you. As the last speaker on that panel, I wish I could just sum it up in 3 words: ditto, ditto, and ditto. You can see ASEAN consensus on display, in full display today, but I have a job to do to present the official view of my government, so please bear with me for another 7 minutes. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to echo my fellow panelists in thanking the Ministry of External Affairs of India for the warm hospitality extended to us since our arrival yesterday. It is notable that for over a decade, the Delhi Dialogue has served so remarkably well in enhancing the ASEAN-India strategic partnership. It has provided the opportunity for informal, yet high-level and meaningful stock-taking exercises for our relations. and hence the chance to adjust our sails as we wade through the geopolitical waters of our respective regions and around the globe. Over the years, Thailand has been investing heavily in the efforts to building bridges between the Asia-Pacific and Indian Ocean regions. In fact, this endeavor was most important impetus behind our ASEAN chairmanship theme of advancing partnership for sustainability and the iteration of ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific adopted by ASEAN leaders in June of this year. The Outlook is a demonstration of ASEAN vista for peace and prosperity. It is another tangible example of our contribution to promote regional stability and development in partnership with external partners in the Indo-Pacific region based on the ASEAN principles and regional architecture perspective. We live in an environment where uncertainty persists and challenges continue to evolve. And it is becoming clearer to us all that these challenges are growing exponentially with the arrival of the fourth industrial revolution, the 5G, the digital technology, and economy. This emerging environment calls for a more pressing need to the strengthening of multilateralism, not unilateralism, and the prioritization of our efforts based on synergy and complementarity. Ultimately, building bridges in this environment must lead us to the realization of our common goals built upon our shared interests and not on a winner-takes-all maneuver. Because only through cooperation can peace and stability for our peoples in the Indo-Pacific region could be attained. In view of the above, the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific could serve as a valuable means to turn conflict into constructive cooperation, focusing on the win-win cooperation built upon the 3 M's, namely mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. The Outlook puts much emphasis on inclusiveness and openness, as well as the long-recognized principle of the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in the Southeast Asia, or TAC. The emerging challenges also call for nations to prioritize their cooperative endeavors, leveraging on our respective strengths to mitigate our weaknesses. For Thailand, we continue to see at least 4 areas where prioritizing synergies and cooperative directions between ASEAN and India would bear significant prosperity dividends. First is in the area of maritime cooperation. The geopolitical advantages that exist between ASEAN and India are nothing short of extraordinary. The Indo-Pacific region comprises dynamic maritime trade routes which account for more than 50% of global trade and is where benefits, both potential and actual, are abundant in a variety of forms. Cooperation could be in the area of resources development, enhancing trade in goods and services, as well as marine-based industries. In this regard, we commend India for having successfully convened 3 East Asia Summit conferences on maritime security and cooperation since 2015. We look forward to working closely with India on the next round of conference to be held in the first quarter of 2020. We also appreciate India's co-hosting with Thailand the 3rd ASEAN-India workshop on blue economy earlier in September in Bangkok this year. Sustainability was a key message at that workshop, and many interesting ideas were forwarded on the issues of conserving marine resources, addressing marine debris, and sustainable oceans and fisheries. ASEAN adoption of Bangkok Declaration and Framework of Action on Combating Marine Debris provides a solid foundation for cooperation with nations at the end of the Indo-Pacific region. Second, Thailand sees immense opportunities and benefits in regional connectivity. it is our belief that we can and should, in a meaningful way, approach this issue holistically as we work to promote connectivity in all dimensions. This can start with seeking out synergies between the Master Plan of ASEAN Connectivity 2025 and Connectivity Initiative under the India Act East Policy, the Security and Growth Initiative for All in the Region, or SACA policy, as well as other sub-regional and regional frameworks such as BIMSTEC, IRA, Mekong Kanka Cooperation, and ECMEX. As an immediate opportunity, we also hope that India, either through its flexible line of credit initiative and other financial facilities, would consider supporting the 19 ASEAN priority infrastructure projects under the Impact 2025. These projects have been identified and screened by the World Bank as being bankable and having high probability for implementation. We should also continue our work on enhancing multimodal connectivity, notably through the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral Highway Project and its possible extension to Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. The road and train connectivity between the deep-sea port in Envoy in Myanmar and the new industrial Eastern Economic Corridor EEC in Thailand and the Da Nang port in Vietnam represents another potential cooperative undertaking that, if materialized, would become one of the world's most important land bridge for trade and transportation, and a boon for our regional cooperation and prosperity. It would strengthen our people-to-people interaction, and in exchanges would reinforce the peace through cooperation mentality and propensity. Third, enhanced and strategic economic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific will be needed in light of the emerging challenges and opportunities in order to increase our shared prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. In this regard, we look forward to early resumption of India's participation in the RCEP negotiations. This would not only underline India's presence and leadership role in the region, but also reinforce the Indo-Pacific concept of balancing the economic weight between the two oceans. We continue to be of the firm belief that it would also help strengthening both regional and multilateral trading systems, as well as serving as a safety net amidst the ongoing uncertainties facing the global economy in coming years. Fourth is in the area of sustainable development, which is a strategic priority of ASEAN in realizing people-to-people and people-centered community that leaves no one behind. A lot have been said about sustainable development, so I will not go into detail on that much further. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Thailand has proudly served this year as ASEAN Chair and as current country coordinator for ASEAN-India dialogue relations. It is in the latter capacity that Thailand has been particularly pleased to see ASEAN and India deepening our engagement on a number of issues, investing in the stability, resilience, and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region. I have every confidence that Vietnam will take on the ASEAN chairmanship from Thailand and lead us on an even more cohesive and responsive ASEAN region, poised to continue to identify further strategic synergies and cooperation of the Indo-Pacific region. To close, as we are in the season that peace and goodwill towards men are the refrain of the day, one holiday wish was brought to my attention this morning. There are people who have, after having been soberly pondering the rather untidy current affairs of the world, have come up with only one wish for the new year, and that is we would be some kind of alien invasion in 2020, so that the peoples and the governments around the world would come together to fight a common enemy. We should not have to wish for such an invasion. What we truly need is to have a clear conviction in what history has taught us, that humanity will sink or swim together, not at the expense of one another. For the latter, with no exception, will make our collective demise our common destiny. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Excellency, for your presentation. We have listened to the latest speaker. We are already over time, but we started late, and I have not seen any request to close the meeting. So I may invite one or two questions or comments from the floor. And please introduce yourself and indicate to which panelist direct your question. Let's please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. Rajiv Bharatiya. I'm a former ambassador to Myanmar. Thank you for such a range of interesting views expressed. I would like to draw specific attention to a point which was made by the representative of Brunei when she said that ASEAN still expects to have an RCEP of 16 countries. Out of those 16 countries, 10 are represented here through ASEAN. What exactly is ASEAN doing to make sure that this RCEP really becomes RCEP of 16? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very interesting question. Of course, as I mentioned previously, how important RCEP it is to not only the region but globally. You know, if we have all 16 countries in RCEP, that will bring about a huge benefit, not only to ASEAN member states, but to the other 6 countries as well. And India is such a huge economy. I think it stands to benefit from participating in RCEP. Well, numerous negotiations have taken place, and we hope that India will positively look at being part of this very important and very beneficial grouping.
Thank you. You want me to end the meeting?
Thank you, Excellencies. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. May I now please request the chair for the session to present mementos to the dignitaries on stage. I would also like to invite Dr. Praveer Dey from the Research and Information System for Developing Countries to please present a memento to the chair for the session, His Excellency Dr. Luong Minh, former Secretary General of ASEAN. Thank you, Excellencies. May I please request the dignitaries on stage to join the audience after the group photograph. Thank you, Excellencies. I request everyone to remain seated. We will be shortly joined by the Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Government of India, His Excellency Shri V. Muralidharan, and we'll be directly proceeding to the next session, the ministerial keynote session. I request everyone to please be seated.